FCS 250 students. Here is a quick overview regarding the paper that you have due tomorrow, which is September 24th. So the first thing I'm going to start off with is some resources that you have here in the module. So again, when you log into the modules, you'll see there's some information for students, talks about the pumpkin leaf decorating that we talked about, advisement days, you can click into those. And then also some information as far as helpful links and information for students. And then here is the one on APA format and writing resources. So again, here's the link to the online writing lab, which is through Purdue University. And then here is an example of the 7th edition PowerPoint that has different information that could be helpful. It's a little bit long, but it does have some good information in it and some examples. And here's a guide, so I'm going to go ahead and open that up and you'll be able to see it. It might take a while to open them up. Here we go. So again, it's going to show you exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it for each type of resource. So this is a journal article, so you'll be able to see they have it all color coded and then the little note that corresponds with it. And then here's a book. We'll show you the same thing. And you scroll down, here's a chapter in an edited book because again, that is different. If you'll note here, it's a little hard to tell, but all of these on your reference page will be double spaced. And then you'll see here, this is a hanging indent. It seems kind of different than what we're used to doing as far as indenting our paragraphs. It's the opposite way. But on the reference page, you will have the very first line will be flush to your margins, which will be, again, 1-inch margins. And then this will be a hanging indent. So it will indent. So every line after the first one for a resource information that, again, if it's a chapter in an edited book or it's a journal, every line after the very first one will be indented like this. Again, all double spaced. So you can see here, these are just different ways, depending on what your resource is, exactly how you will be putting it on the reference page. So again, that's a handy tool. I know it looks a little overwhelming, but try and take a look at it. Maybe enlarge it a little bit on your screen for each of those resources that you're going to be using. Again, in-text citation, a quick view for APA citations. You can see that. And again, this is just another resource. This is from the USC libraries. Again, it can give you kind of an idea. It's going to look a little different if it's a work by one author, how you would do it, and then a work by two authors, and then different ways that you can do that. Again, parenthetical format is there, narrative citations, just some different ways that they're doing that. So kind of a quick way. Again, this is the APA style, and this is 7th edition, which we are using. So again, in-text citations gives you a little bit more information there. Some things that we talked about, again, if it goes a quotation goes on to the next page, you use 2 lowercase p's together. And then if you have something where you can't find a date, sometimes that'll happen, not really in papers, but on websites. So then you use the lowercase n period, lowercase d period, and that's for no date. So you won't have the quotation marks, they're just showing you that way. They're showing you different ways that it would look. So that's just basically saying that there's no date that was given. So this, again, is helpful. I want you guys to do your very best on this first paper, and that way I'll be able to see where each of you are at and then the ways that I can help you. Here are the examples that I shared with you that are in the module. This is a template that you can use. You do not have to use it, but again, if you open it up here, it is a Word document, so you can download it. But you'll see here, this is how it's starting. Again, student papers in 7th edition are going to look different than a professional paper. And essentially the main difference is going to be the headers. Again, with professional papers, ones that are submitted to be published in a journal, that's what would be something that would make it different for a professional paper. If you're a student and you're submitting it for a course, for a grade, then it's considered a student paper. So again, no headers are required. So all you'll have here is the page number, and again, it's going to be flush right here with your margin, your 1-inch margin. And then here, going further down, you're going to have the title of the paper in bold type like this. So you can use this template. Obviously, you would delete everything that is here. You'd write your title of your paper, and then obviously you delete this. You would put your name here. You can leave that because Child and Family Studies, and that is the correct way that is. So you would leave that. This is the class, and then that's my name, and then you would type the due date here. Again, go ahead and erase this. I gave you an example here. Just a reminder to do it like this. When in formal papers, you're going to be writing out the date like this. So again, the full month, the date, and then the year. And again, you won't use any of the superscripts like the TH or RD. You'll do it just like this. So again, within this template, you'll want to make sure that you erase the parts that are instructions. Has the page number up there started for you, so that is ready to go. You'll put your title of your paper here in bold type, just as it is above on the title page. And then here, this is just giving you information that you need to do for your paragraphs. Again, indent, you can do one tab for that. That will give you that perfect indent. Otherwise, you can use the space bar, but sometimes it's a little, depending on the font, anywhere between 5 and 7 spaces. So using the tab key just once is the way to get a perfect indent there. So again, you're going to see here things are double spaced, at least 7 sentences in your paragraphs. Again, aim for that 7 to 10 sentences. Again, don't abbreviate in formal writing. Always write everything out. If you're writing numbers, anything 10 or above can be the number itself. Other than that, they generally say you would write out the word. Again, we'll talk more about that, but those are just some helpful hints there. Again, include in-text citations. That's what we had talked about in class today. Again, the author's last name, the year it was published, and then the page number if it's a direct quote. If it's not a direct quote and you're paraphrasing, then that could just be the author's last name and the year. Again, there are some examples, the PowerPoint's in the module, and then I also have some examples just below this paper template. So again, include that from your research or other sources. And then if you're doing an interview or somebody gave you some information that you talked to, you would use those parenthetical citations. And again, we'll take a look at what that looks like in the examples. And then that also was in it will be for your interviews. So again, interviews, you'll definitely have the parenthetical citations because somebody will be telling you a direct quote, or they will be telling you something that you'll paraphrase. So again, if they're telling you a direct quote, you're quoting exactly what they said, you're going to be using double quotation marks and then the parenthetical citation. And then if you're quoting yourself, something you said, then you would just use single quotation marks and you wouldn't have to use the parenthetical citation. So going down here, obviously you're going to have your content and then your last page. Again, it will start on a new page. And this is actually down a little bit. You want to have that 1-inch margin, so that will be up a little bit. But again, references will be in bold type. It'll be centered. So obviously you'll take this part off. If you happen to have just one reference, which will be rare in our papers for this time, but then it would just be singular reference. And that's a change from the 6th edition. They used to have it always be references, even if it was just one. So again, here, if it's plural, you'll use the plural. If it's not, you'll use the singular. So with your reference page, you will use the hanging indent. So if that's not something you're familiar with, do make sure that you take a look at that. Again, I showed you on that page, but you can also look at the OWL at Purdue just to take a look to see what that sample paper would look like. So again, the hanging indent is opposite of what we think. Your first line will start here, and then every line after the first will be indented. So again, take a look at those examples and do your very best. I know APA format can be a little bit tricky sometimes, but again, this is just giving you that idea of what you can use the template and to get started on. So the in-text citation and interview citation examples, again, these are just things that I made up. So again, just to show you what this would look like, might take a second for it to open up here, but it's going to give you an idea as far as doing quotation. So again, here was a direct quotation from a book. So that would be the author's last name, the year it was published, and again, lowercase p period space, and then the page number, and then the close parentheses, and then that's where the period goes. Again, you don't have the period here, it goes at the very end there. And here would be an example of a paraphrase. So again, having the information here, the sentences, and then that would be the author's last name and the year it was published. So here is going to be an example from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So you would write that website name. And again, if you didn't see any date, you would have N period, D period for that no date, and then the year. And then this here, since there wasn't necessarily any page numbers, you would use para for paragraph. And so you would just do it in lowercase like this, and you would abbreviate it, and then you would put the number. So sometimes it might not even look like a full number. So it might look like maybe 2 sentences, little space, 3 sentences, space, 2 sentences. But essentially, anytime you have a break and there's a space, then you would count that and count down from there. So in this case, it was paragraph 4, and then the period goes there. So again, parenthetical citations for direct communication. So that would be an interview, a phone call, anything like that. Again, it's going to be the person's first initial, period, space, and then their last name. And then you have a comma, and it's personal communication. And then another comma, space, and then you put the date. Again, same thing here. You're going to write the full date out, and then the period goes behind there. So here's another way to do it. So like if you're using the person's name there, then at the very end, you're just going to be say personal communication, and then the date, and then again, the close parentheses, and then you have the period there. Okay, so those are just some examples for you. Again, this will be helpful for both your paper that's coming up due tomorrow and then your first informational interview. So that is it for this, and then I will go ahead and do one specifically on the paper that you have due tomorrow. That is your first discussion paper.